Hey guys, it's Phoebe from Who's Phoebe and welcome back to another Doctor Who video. Now as you guys know, I am doing 24 days of Doctor Who, which basically consists of me watching 24 classic Doctor Who episodes. I'm just going to pause and mute my TV. So yeah, that's basically what December entails off on my channel. If you've never seen my face on the screens before, please click that big red subscribe button down below. And also click the notifications bell so you get notifications every single time I upload, because you do not want to miss a new video coming out, obviously. So today's review is the third Doctor. It's the three Doctors. This is an important one in Doctor Who history because it is the 10th anniversary special, the very first anniversary special Doctor Who has ever had, and also the first multi-Doctor story. Now, of course, in this one we have Jon Pertwee, who plays the third Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and of course William Hartnell. But due to William Hartnell's health, he couldn't actually be like with the other Doctors. He had to be on screen. So yeah, due to that issue, there's that as well. So the three Doctors, you guys know how these reviews work. I do my positives and negatives. Although to be fair though, with this particular story, there is like no negatives I have, because this story is a solid Doctor Who story. I really do like this because we know at this point the Doctor is still on Earth. Like the Time Lords have still exiled and everything like that, you know, like he's still being exiled and he's still stuck on Earth, so the trouble comes to him. And this one messes around with Omega, the idea of Omega. If you don't know who Omega is, here's a little bit of Doctor Who history. Omega was the very first Time Lord who discovered time travel, and he allowed the Time Lords to use it, and then the Time Lords banished him, exiled him as a criminal, and ever since then he's been after revenge by the Time Lords because the Time Lords were the problems with the Time Lords had an issue with him. So that's a little bit of context there for you guys if you were wondering. So I do like this episode because it plays with the idea of antimatter, because you can't have a universe of matter and antimatter existing in the same universe, because antimatter and matter are meant to exist not together. So antimatter is basically, I can't really understand it. I am not a scientist, so please, if there's any scientists who actually are watching this right now, please correct me in the comments if I've got any of these facts wrong. So antimatter sucks up anything that is matter, and it's matter is the reverse of antimatter, basically, to put it in simple terms. Now, this episode this story starts off at unit and everything like that, and what I like about this story is you actually get Benton and the Briggs reaction to the TARDIS. It is amazing. Like, obviously antimatter is coming at them, so the only safe place to hide is the TARDIS. Now, I do like this story mostly because of the way it's portrayed, and also it's a nice four-parter as well. I feel like the three Doctors would work in like one big one episode kind of situation, a bit like how they did the 5 Doctors. So yeah, I feel like this is a really great story, not just for any Doctor Who fan, but anyone who's new to Classic Who. I definitely recommend starting here as a first time story, because you get to know the history of the Time Lord in a bit more depth in this particular story, which is always really handy to know. Because if you're a first timer to Doctor Who, I don't really recommend starting on like the Daleks or the Unearthly Child. I more recommend starting on the third Doctors, because you get more of an in-depth history of who the Time Lords actually are as people. It's funny how the Brigadier puts in references to the Doctor, like, can't you consult those superiors of yours? Like, the Time Lords are the Doctor's superiors. Technically speaking they are, but also technically speaking they aren't, because the Doctor is his own person. He plays by his own rules, basically. He doesn't care what the Time Lords think. But the Time Lords know full well that this is also a crisis they are dealing with on Gallifrey as well. So they send another version of the Doctor to help him. So they basically send the second Doctor to help the third Doctor. Because the Time Lords can't spare anyone, because they need everyone to help with the power drain that Gallifrey is suffering from the black hole. Because this affects the Time Lords as well. So this isn't just kind of affecting the Doctor, this is also affecting the entirety of Gallifrey as well. So you sort of see this little control room in the three Doctors with all the Time Lords and everything like that. And the Lord President is actually the one who initiates the "we need the Doctor to meet himself." It's against the rules of Gallifrey though. Every time the Doctor regenerates, he is not allowed to meet himself. That is against the basic rule of Time Lords and everything like that. They're only allowed to meet themselves in emergency, but the Lord President initiates this because they can't send anyone down to help the Doctor. So, you get the second Doctor, and then you get the two arguing for a little while, and I think that is really interesting to see the two different dynamics between the two different Doctors in this particular story, because they are completely two different people. You get the second Doctor arguing with him, and then you get the third Doctor arguing with himself as well. So basically the Doctor is arguing with himself. And then you get the third Doctor come in on the TARDIS scanner and says, and he goes, "You're my replacements, a dandy and a clown." That will always go down for me as my favourite joke that the Doctors have ever made to each other. Now, I do like the second Doctor in this particular story because Benton knows who he is, so it's not like they're introducing like a face that the Doctor has never met before. Like, Benton has already met the second version of the Doctor anyway when he originally met the Doctor back with the Cybermen business and everything like that, and the Yessian and things like that. So it's interesting to get his reaction to what is happening, and it's quite nice having the unit soldiers inside the TARDIS because you get a lot of that in classic Doctor Who. You get a lot of like guest stars walking into the TARDIS. It's completely fine. It's kind of that dynamic. And it's interesting because when the Brigadier goes in, you get his reaction, and his first instinct, he says to the Doctor, "So this is what you've been doing with unit funds and money, Doctor." And that's jokey, but it's not actually exactly what the Doctor's been doing with unit money and funds, because the TARDIS already came like that. But it's interesting to see the Brigadier's reaction. As for the rest of the story, I think this is a really good story because you get the Doctor, you get the third Doctor and Jo in the antimatter universe, which is very interesting because it gives us a bit of a break from the two Doctors arguing. So you get kind of the third Doctor and Jo going to the antimatter universe to see what it's all about. And there the third Doctor encounters Omega. And Omega is like this god type being. It's really hard to describe him. He's like this god type being, or basically the first ever Time Lord to discover time travel and everything about it. So he's not happy. He's not happy because the Time Lords see him as an enemy. And he's not very happy about this, and he wants revenge. So basically, his plan was to get the Doctors and ask the Doctors to take his place. But when the Doctors lift up Omega's mask, the corrosion has already taken place, and he's only existing because his will exists. That's how Omega works. That's how he works. He exists only when he wants his will to exist. So when he wants his will to exist, he exists. So that's basically how Omega works. And it's interesting to see that this is the first appearance of Omega because he's such a being, and it's interesting for this particular story as well, not just because of the way things are, but also because of how Omega can be portrayed to anything. And it's more and more intriguing because every time you see Omega with the Fifth Doctor, he takes the Fifth Doctor's form. But in this particular one, he's just existing in his antimatter universe because he's existing. It's a very, very weird one. And I do like this story. This is a great story. There is absolutely no negatives to this story whatsoever because this is a really good, solidly paced, and I'm not even joking when I say this, paced story, because you have got Jo Grant, you've got Patrick Troughton who's playing the second Doctor, you've got William Hartnell on screen trying to keep the second and third Doctors in check. You have the unit, you have Benton and the Brig being one of the main characters going into the TARDIS and having a look, and their reactions are just completely priceless. I mean, that is probably one of my favourite things about the entirety of the story. Also, you get the whole kind of the idea of antimatter messing around, which does actually help years later in the Arc of Infinity with Omega and everything like that, with Nyssa and Tegan and the Fifth Doctor and everything like that. Which is actually one of my favourite Fifth Doctor stories, just to clarify. So yeah, so this is a really good, solid anniversary special. This works really, really well. The only slightly giveaway is that you know the TARDIS is just a police box they've set up, is when they come out of the TARDIS and the doors are left open and you can just see there's no console room there, there's just white. So that's the only downside to that scene, because I don't think they meant to do that intentionally, but it was an accident. They left the TARDIS doors open and then you could just see like there was like nothing, it was just a police box, plain old police box. But yeah, so this story altogether is very good. You get Bessie, you get the antimatter universe, like you actually get to see the antimatter universe in this story. So that is actually very, 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 very cool. You also get to see Omega's first ever appearance on Doctor Who. This is like the first ever appearance of Omega, so you actually get to see why the Time Lords hate him so much. You get the Time Lords in this episode as kind of side characters, but they're up on Gallifrey trying to deal with the situation just as much as the Doctor, so they can't really send him help. And then at the end of the episode, at the end of this story, the Time Lords send the Doctor a new dematerialization circuit to say, we've forgiven you, you can travel again. It's up to you now, you can travel again, your exile's finished. But we know full well that there are 2 more series with the third Doctor that he stays on Earth to help for a while. And then obviously the 4th Doctor, you know, enough. But the Doctor does have this freedom now. He does have the freedom to go travelling anywhere in the universe now. So overall, I'd give this story a solid 10 out of 10. Now if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up if you did, and make sure you click the big red subscribe button down below. And in the words of the second Doctor, oh my giddy aunt, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Bye.